Chosen one, I need you to stop everything you are doing right now and listen to me with your spirit, not just your ears. Suspend your disbelief for just one fleeting minute because heaven has a divine subpoena for your soul. If you have been exhausted, if you have been feeling like you are trapped in a suffocating loop of endless waiting, staring at a horizon that never seems to brighten, then I have a very specific, high-stakes message for you. You have been studying for the wrong test. You think God is testing your patience. You think He is sitting up there with a cosmic stopwatch, waiting to see how long you can suffer in silence before you finally break. That is a lie from the pit of hell. God was never watching your clock. He was watching your integrity. While you were crying in private, wondering why every door was slammed in your face while the wicked were being invited to the banquet, you were actually sitting in the middle of the incorruptibility exam that 99% of people fail within the first hour. You did not realize it, but every time you refused to become bitter when you were betrayed, every time you refused to compromise your soul when you were desperate for a breakthrough, you were qualifying for the highest level of kingdom authority. The grating is over. The silence is finally breaking. Center your spirit and lock into this exact moment, because we are about to unveil the massive reward you earned without even knowing you were being tested. Do not click away from this video. I am warning you, do not let a notification or a distraction rob you of this, because by the end of this message, you are not just going to understand the mechanics of your delay. You are going to receive the 7 forms of confrontation so you do not lose your reward at the finish line. In the next 40 days, you are going to discover the bloodline secret that makes you the ultimate cycle breaker of your family tree. And finally, we will seal this with an activation ceremony that will shift you from the season of waiting into the season of receiving. This is the blueprint for your next level. Stay with me, because your life is about to move faster than you ever thought possible. Think about those moments of deep, dark isolation. Maybe it was last night. Maybe it is right now. You are sitting in your car, parked in the driveway after a long, soul-crushing day. The engine is off, but you haven't opened the door yet because you don't have the energy to face the reality inside. It is dark, and the only flickering light is coming from your dashboard. You are gripping that steering wheel so hard your knuckles are white, staring at nothing, feeling a physical heaviness right in the center of your chest. It feels like a massive, jagged stone is sitting on your sternum, making every breath a battle. So, you are playing back the last few months, the last few years, in your head like a broken film strip. You look at your life and you see a contradiction that makes absolutely no sense. You see the blood, the sweat, and the tears you put in. You see the prayers you whispered into the ceiling until your voice went hoarse. You see the nights you stayed up grinding, building, and dreaming while everyone else was sleeping or partying. You see the times you did the right thing when nobody was watching, when it would have been so easy to cut corners. And then you look at the results. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Or worse than nothing. You look around and you see people who lie, cheat, and manipulate getting ahead. You see the arrogant living in the abundance that was promised to you. You see people who do not even acknowledge God getting the very breakthrough you have been fasting for. And a thought creeps into your mind, A thought so raw, so dangerous, that you are afraid to even speak it out loud. You think, is this a cosmic joke? Am I being punished for being a good person? Did God lose my address in the middle of this desert? That exhaustion you feel is not just physical fatigue, it is spiritual exhaustion. It is the dissonance of worth. You know deep down in your DNA that you carry something great, something world-shifting, but your current reality looks like a dry, barren wasteland. And because you are a chosen one, because you know the word, you have tried to diagnose this. You have tried to put a label on this pain to make it manageable. And the label you came up with, the one everyone, including the church, gave you is patience. You have convinced yourself that this is just a patience test. You tell yourself, God is just teaching me to wait. God is just developing my endurance. I just need to hold on a little longer. I just need to suffer a little more quietly. You even read James 1:3, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let me tell you something about that word in the original Greek. The word is hypomone. It doesn't just mean waiting around for a bus that's running late. It means abiding under heavy pressure without collapsing. It is the image of a warrior holding up a crushing weight, muscles trembling, bones aching, but refusing to drop it. You think, okay, that is me. I am under the pressure. I am trembling. So I must be passing the test. I just need to keep holding this heaviness forever. You build a whole theology around delay. You start to believe that suffering is the only proof of your calling. You accept every closed door as a sign that you just need to wait harder. But listen to me very closely, because here is the twist that will change your perspective forever. There is a massive difference between a divine season of preparation and a demonic cycle of stagnation. There is a difference between a God-ordained pause and a missing key that you haven't found yet. Most people will tell you to just keep waiting, but God is showing me a terrifying truth about your situation right now. If you continue to simply wait, if you continue to simply endure without understanding the shift, you are going to fail the real test. What you are going through right now is not about your calendar. It is not about how many days or months have passed. God is not sitting in heaven with a stopwatch thinking, let's make them wait another 6 months just to see if they crack. That is not the heart of your Father. The reason the door hasn't swung open yet has nothing to do with time and everything to do with the vessel. If this were merely a test of patience, you would have graduated with honors years ago. You have waited enough. You have cried enough. You have endured enough. If time were the currency required to buy your breakthrough, you would be the wealthiest person on this planet by now. But God isn't looking at the clock on the wall. He is looking at the structural integrity of the container. He isn't asking, how long can they wait? He is asking, how pure can they stay while they wait? This is the integrity test. In the kingdom, promotion does not go to the fastest or the loudest. Promotion comes to the most solid. The delay you have been cursing is never designed to torture you. It was designed to expose every hairline fracture in your character before the massive weight of glory is placed upon you. Because if God gave you the power before you had the purity, the power would not bless you, it would destroy you. Do you understand the magnitude of what is happening? You are being forged in a kiln of isolation so that you can carry a weight of influence that would snap the spine of an ordinary person. You are being prepared for a takeover, not just a makeover. Stay tuned, because in the next part, we are going to dive deep into why your vessel had to be reinforced and the specific moment your silence turns into a shout of victory. This journey is just beginning, and the shift is happening right now. Listen to me in the Spirit, because we are moving from the waiting room into the examination room. If you are going to carry the weight of what is coming, you have to understand the principle of the clean vessel. Think about Daniel in the heart of Babylon. He was a young man, a captive, stripped of his home and his identity. He was offered the king's meat and the king's wine, the absolute best the world had to offer. It was a shortcut to comfort. It was an express ticket to being accepted by the elite. But Daniel 1:8 says something that changed the trajectory of history. Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. Notice that word, defile. It didn't say he refused because he wasn't hungry. He refused because he knew the source. He understood that if he ate the king's meat, he became a slave to the king's system. If he took the shortcut, he would crack his own vessel. So he chose the harder path. He chose vegetables and water. He chose to look like a fool to everyone else, just so he could remain pure before his God. And just like Daniel, you are living in a modern-day Babylon. The world around you is screaming that you need to compromise just to keep your head above water. It tells you to lie on that tax return. It tells you to manipulate that contract. It tells you to sell a piece of your soul just to pay your rent, but you didn't. When you were starving for a win, you could have taken the king's meat, but you chose the vegetables. When you were lonely, you could have texted that person who poisons your spirit, but you chose to stay alone in the presence of God. You chose integrity over relief. And because you did that, you passed the test that most people fail in the first 30 days. Now, I want you to visualize something with me. Close your eyes for a second and see a beautiful, handcrafted clay vessel sitting on a master's table. This vessel is you, your spirit, your character, your life's work. Now imagine a hand holding a pitcher of pure, glowing, priceless golden oil. This is the anointing. This is the wealth, the influence, and the authority that God has already earmarked for your name. But before the master pours, he pauses. He isn't being stingy. He is being careful. He inspects the vessel for hairline fractures. If that clay jar has a single crack, what happens when the oil is poured? It leaks. It's wasted. It becomes a mess on the floor instead of a light for the world. If that jar is filled with the dirt of bitterness or the silt of resentment, the oil becomes contaminated and useless. God loves you too much to pour his precious oil into a cracked or dirty container. You've been screaming, "Lord, where is the money? Lord, where is the spouse? Lord, where is the promotion?" And God has been whispering back, "I cannot pour yet. Not because I don't have it, but because if I pour this level of power into your current level of character, it will destroy you." If he gave you millions while you were still holding on to that secret bitterness, the money would just amplify your anger and destroy your family. If he gave you that global platform while you were still chasing the validation of man, the fame would crush your spirit. The delay was not a denial. The delay was the potter reinforcing the clay in the fire. Look at Psalm 26. David didn't say, "Judge me by my talent." He didn't say, "Check my follower count." He said, "Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart." He was inviting the inspection. He knew that before he could wear the crown of a nation, he had to be structurally sound. This explains the thing that has been driving you absolutely crazy. This explains the blatant injustice you see every single day. You look around on social media and you see people who are living completely wrong. You see the arrogant, the greedy, and the manipulators winning. They are getting the viral fame. They are buying the mansions. They are flaunting the lifestyle you've been praying for. And you ask God, why them? Why do they get to rise so fast while I'm stuck here in the mud of obscurity? Here is the answer that the world won't tell you. Man's logic says fast is better, but God's logic says built to last is better. Those people you are envying, they aren't building fortresses, they are building shacks. You can throw up a shack in 2 days. It looks like progress. It looks like success. But the very first time a real storm hits, the shack collapses into splinters. You, chosen one, are not building a shack. You are building a fortress of legacy. You are building something that will carry the weight of glory for 3 generations after you are gone. A fortress takes time. It requires a foundation that goes deep into the bedrock where nobody can see. Those people got rich fast because they sold their vessels. They cracked their integrity to let the world in. They traded their eternal soul for temporary speed. But God is preserving you. He hid you. He slowed you down. He allowed you to be overlooked by the people who didn't deserve to be in your future anyway. Why? Because he is building a heavy-duty, high-capacity vessel. He needs you to be able to carry a weight of glory that would snap the spine of a normal person. The silence you felt wasn't abandonment. It was the curing process. It was the potter firing the clay in the kiln. It gets hot in the kiln. It gets lonely in the kiln. But that is the only way the vessel becomes unbreakable. You thought you were failing because you weren't moving, but in the eyes of heaven, you were succeeding because you weren't cracking under the heat. You stayed solid when everyone else melted. You stayed quiet when everyone else was screaming for attention. But we have to be very careful here. You might think you've passed because you haven't committed the big sins. You haven't robbed a bank. You haven't committed a crime. But the enemy is more subtle than that. He knows you're too righteous for the obvious traps. So he tries to crack your vessel with invisible poisons, the subtle fractures of the heart. And the reality is, you have been fighting these secret battles and winning without even realizing that this was the real war all along. There are 3 specific signs of a solid vessel that you have already demonstrated, and it's time you recognized your own strength. The first sign is your refusal to retaliate when you held the weapon. Think back to a few months ago. Someone betrayed you. They lied about your character. They tried to bury your reputation. And the truth is, you had the receipts. You had the ammunition to destroy them in front of everyone. You held that digital weapon in your hand, and your flesh was screaming. Burn it all down. Let them feel what I feel. But you didn't. You deleted the draft. You took the high road. You allowed yourself to be the loser in the eyes of man so you could stay a winner in the eyes of God. That wasn't weakness. That was the first pillar of an uncorrupted vessel. You passed the test of authority. God saw that He can trust you with power because you won't use it to settle personal scores. But don't get too comfortable, because the heat is about to be turned up. There is a second sign and a third sign that are even harder to pass, and they are the keys to the door that is currently standing right in front of you. If you can understand what you've already survived, you will realize that the enemy has no more cards left to play. You are closer than you have ever been, and the shift is literally one heartbeat away. Are you ready to see what's on the other side of this fire? Because the fire didn't consume you, it only consumed the things that were holding you back. You've already proven that you won't use your power as a weapon for revenge, but the Master is looking for even deeper structural integrity. This brings us to the second sign that your vessel is solid, the refusal to compromise for quick relief. I'm talking about those moments in the middle of your financial desert when the pressure became so suffocating you could barely catch your breath, right in the peak of that drought. An opportunity appeared. It looked like water. It looked like the answer to every prayer you've sent up for the last 3 years. Maybe it was a job offer that paid double, but required you to support something your spirit knew was unethical. Maybe it was a business deal where you just had to fudge the numbers or lie to a client just a little bit to close the gap. Everyone around you said, "Take it, God wants you to be blessed, doesn't He?" But your spirit felt like lead. You felt that holy friction in your gut, and you did the unthinkable. You walked away from the money. You went back to your dry season. Broke, but clean. You felt like a fool explaining it to your family. But in the spirit realm, that was the second pillar being erected. You proved to the principalities and powers that your price tag is not for sale. And then there is the third sign, the hardest one of all, the refusal to close your heart. After all the betrayals, after the silence of God and the loud insults of men, the most natural reaction in the world is to build a wall, to become cold, to say, "I'm done being the nice guy. I'm done being generous." But look at you. Even while you are bleeding, you are still bandaging others. Even while you are waiting for your own miracle, you are still on your knees praying for someone else's. You gave your last $20 to someone in need, even though you didn't know where your next meal was coming from. That chosen one is the third pillar. You kept your heart soft in a world that tried to hammer it into stone. Let me tell you a story about a man who faced this exact trinity of tests. We'll call him David. Just last year, David was drowning in debt. He had a family to feed, a business failing, and zero income. Out of nowhere, he received a 6-figure contract offer. It was the miracle he'd been begging for. But as he sat in that plush office with the pen hovering over the signature line, he saw a clause, a tiny, hidden clause that required him to deceive his future clients. Just a marketing tactic, they called it. His flesh screamed, "Sign it, your kids need to eat, God understands." But David put the pen down. He looked the CEO in the eye and said, "I can't do this." He walked out to his car and he sobbed. He felt like a total failure. He went home empty-handed and felt the weight of shame. But 2 months later, That entire company was raided for fraud. Every employee involved was implicated, and their reputations were scorched forever. If David had signed, he would have been caught in the net. But it gets better. 3 weeks after the raid, a competitor who had heard about David's refusal called him. They said, "We need someone we can trust blindly. We know you're incorruptible." They offered him a clean position with even higher pay. You see, David thought he was losing a contract, but he was actually saving his life. You have done the exact same thing. You might not have seen the raid or the new offer yet, but the spiritual physics are the same. By saying no to the devil's shortcut, you preserved your vessel for God's destinations. Now, I can hear the accuser whispering in your ear right now. He's trying to steal your victory. He says, "You didn't refuse revenge because you're holy. You refused because you're weak." He says you're a doormat. He says people walk over you because you don't have a backbone. We need to perform emergency surgery on that lie right now. The world has tricked you into thinking that being meek means being weak. But let's look at Matthew 5:5. "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Why would God give the entire earth to people who are spineless? Weak people get eaten alive in this world. The problem is the translation. The Greek word for meek is praus. In ancient Greece, this word was used to describe a war horse, a massive, powerful stallion with enough strength to crush a man's skull with one kick. A war horse has muscles of steel and the speed of the wind, but it stands perfectly still in the heat of battle, amidst the smoke and the screaming, because it is tuned to the whisper of its rider. That is praus. That is meekness. Meekness is not the absence of power. It is power under control. When you didn't text back that insult, it wasn't because you couldn't think of a comeback. It was because you are a war horse under the bridle of the Holy Spirit. When you didn't sue that person who wronged you, it wasn't because you were scared of the courtroom. It was because your rider told you to stand down. Proverbs 16:32 says, "He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty." Do you hear that you are better than the mighty? You are stronger than a general who conquers a city, because conquering your own impulse to strike back takes a supernatural strength that most people will never know. Stop calling yourself a doormat. A doormat stays silent because it has no choice. You stayed silent because you have discipline. You are the most dangerous person in the room because you are the only one who cannot be baited into a fight that is beneath your destiny. You have passed the integrity test. You have passed the meekness test. You have kept the vessel clean by every spiritual law. The reward should be in your hands. So why is there still a lock on the gate? Why does it feel like there is one final shadow you have to walk through? It's because God doesn't keep a warrior of your caliber in the wilderness this long just for personal growth. There is something much bigger than your individual life at play here. There is a secret buried in your DNA, a mystery in your bloodline that you are finally ready to understand. You aren't just a survivor of a hard life. You are a cycle breaker. And the reason your battle has been 10 times harder than everyone else's is because you aren't just carrying your own cross. You are clearing a minefield for generations you haven't even met yet. Get ready, because we are about to pull back the curtain on your ancestry and show you exactly why the enemy has been so terrified of your patience. The shift is no longer coming, it is here. Listen to me very carefully. because what I am about to tell you is the missing piece of your entire life's puzzle. You have won the personal victory in the secret place, and that is excellent. But God does not keep a warrior of your caliber hidden in the shadows of the wilderness this long just for a bit of personal refinement. There is a cosmic strategy at play here that is much bigger than your bank account or your social status. There is a secret about your bloodline, a mystery buried deep within your spiritual DNA that you need to grasp right now. The reason your test has felt disproportionate, the reason your battle has felt 10 times more crushing than the battles of the people around you is not because God is punishing you. It is because the exam you are taking is not just for one person. It's for an entire lineage. This is the revelation that will shift your identity from a survivor to a conqueror. You are a cycle breaker. Up until this moment, you have been looking at your struggle through a microscopic lens. You thought this was just about your job, your failed relationships, or your empty pockets. But heaven is looking at your struggle through a telescopic lens, looking back 3, 4, even 5 generations into your past. The delay you have experienced was not just about building your patience. It was about clearing a massive spiritual minefield that has been blowing up the lives of your ancestors for 100 years. You are not just carrying your own cross. You are carrying the accumulated weight of unfinished business from your entire family tree. Let's go deep into the Word to prove this. Look at Exodus 34:7. It speaks of God keeping mercy for thousands, but it also mentions visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the 3rd and to the 4th generation. Most people read that and feel a chill of fear, but you need to understand the spiritual mechanics here. In Hebrew, there is a massive difference between sin and iniquity. The word for sin is chata, which simply means to miss the mark. It's an individual mistake. Chor. But the word used for what passes down the bloodline is avon. Avon comes from a root word that means to bend, to twist, or to distort. Avon is not just an action, it is a bent. It is a spiritual inclination. It is a distortion in the spiritual DNA that compels a person to repeat the same destructive patterns as their father and their grandfather. Think of a wire coat hanger. If your grandfather bent that wire with his unbridled anger, and your father bent it further with his secret addictions, that wire has been handed to you completely twisted out of shape. Even if you try to hang a good life on it, everything hangs crooked because the structure itself is distorted. That is Avon. This explains why you have felt urges and pressures that make no sense to you. This explains why you have had to fight like a lion against depression, poverty, or divorce, even when you were doing everything right on the surface. You weren't just fighting a bad day. You were fighting the bent of your bloodline. You were fighting 100-year-old distortion. And this is exactly why your test had to be the incorruptibility test. God could not just pour the oil of blessing onto a bent wire. If he poured the anointing onto a distorted structure, the blessing itself would flow crookedly and eventually cause a total collapse. He needed someone strong enough, someone with enough Holy Spirit fire in their bones, to take that bent wire and straighten it out once and for all. Do you realize how much force it takes to straighten metal that has been twisted for 40 or 50 years? It takes intense heat. It takes extreme pressure. It takes the steady, heavy hammer of the master potter. That is what you have been feeling in this season of silence. The heat was not meant to burn you to ashes. It was meant to make you malleable. The pressure was not meant to crush your soul. It was the hand of God bending your bloodline back into perfect alignment with His original design. You are the first one in generations who didn't snap under that pressure. You are the first one who stayed in the fire until the wire was straight. Look at Numbers 14:18. It tells us that God is long-suffering and forgives iniquity. He forgives the Avon. But someone has to be the legal representative on earth to walk out that forgiveness. Someone has to be the one to stand at the gates of the family and say, "The cycle stops with me." This realization shifts your identity from a victim to a pioneer. You are a spiritual heavy lifter. God looked at your family tree. He saw the broken marriages. He saw the secret shame. He saw the spirit of poverty that has gripped your name for decades. And He said, "Enough. I need a warrior who can handle the heat of the kiln. I need someone with the integrity to stand in the fire and not smell like smoke." And He picked you. He chose you because He knew you wouldn't sell out for a cheap thrill. He knew you had the meekness that controlled power to hold the line when the enemy attacked your mind. Ezekiel 18:20 says, "The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father." You are the living fulfillment of that promise. You are the one declaring that the bent stops here. The distortion stops here. When you refuse to retaliate against those who slandered you, you weren't just being nice. You were breaking a generational spirit of bitterness. When you refused to compromise for that quick, dirty money, you were severing the spirit of poverty off your grandchildren's lives before they are even born. You are the repairer of the breach, mentioned in Isaiah 58:12. You are raising up the foundations of many generations. I want you to feel the massive weight of this truth right now. Visualize a heavy, rusted iron chain stretching back behind you into the darkness of the past. It's cold, it's heavy, and it's been dragging your family down for a century. Now, visualize yourself holding a massive pair of spiritual bolt cutters. Those cutters are your integrity. Those cutters are your refusal to bow to the king's meat. With every right decision you made in the dark, you were squeezing those handles. With every tear you cried while still choosing to trust God's timing, you were applying pressure. And that snap you heard in the spirit realm recently, that was the chain of your bloodline shattering into a million pieces. You did it. You straightened the wire. You cleared the minefield. But you must listen to me now, because this is where the danger spikes to its highest level. Now that you know you are a cycle breaker, now that you know you are the one ending a 100-year war, you have officially become public enemy number one in the kingdom of darkness. The enemy didn't care about you when he thought you were just another victim of the family curse. But now that he sees you are a pioneer, now that he sees you are liberating future generations, he has ordered a full-scale, desperate counterattack. He knows you are inches away from the reward. He knows the golden oil is about to pour. So, in the next 40 days, he has designed a specific, ruthless strategy to try and make you trip at the finish line. He's going to launch the 7 forms of confrontation against you. This is not paranoia. It is spiritual protocol. And if you don't know the playbook, you might mistake a demonic interception for a random bad day. Are you ready to see the enemy's cards? Because once you see them, he loses his power. The gate is groaning open, and we are about to walk through it together. The enemy has designed a specific, ruthless strategy to stop you in the next 40 days. This is not paranoia. This is spiritual protocol. You need to understand the physics of the kingdom. The intensity of the attack always matches the proximity to the promise. You are not being hammered right now because you are weak or because you've done something wrong. You are being targeted because you are standing in the penalty box, and you are seconds away from scoring the goal that changes your family's history forever. Think about a high-stakes soccer match. When does the defense become the most aggressive? When is the tackling the most brutal? It's not when the ball is in the middle of the field. It's when the striker is inches away from the net. Nobody wastes energy tackling the player who is sitting on the sidelines drinking water. They tackle the one with the ball who is facing the goal. Chosen one. You have the ball. You are facing the goal. The chains of your bloodline are smoking on the ground behind you, and because of that, the kingdom of darkness is in a state of absolute panic. We see the blueprint for this counterattack in Matthew chapter 4. Immediately after Jesus was baptized, immediately after the Father's voice thundered from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son," Jesus was led into the wilderness to be tempted. Notice the timing. He had just received his public identity. He was just about to step into his global destiny. And that is exactly when the tempter showed up. The enemy didn't come with a pitchfork and a red suit. He came with reasonable suggestions. He came with shortcuts. And he is going to use that exact same playbook on you in the next 40 days. Here is the first form of confrontation, the financial counterfeit. The enemy knows you've been in a financial desert. He knows your bank account has been gasping for air. In Matthew 4:3, the tempter told Jesus, "If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread." He was whispering, "You're hungry. You have the gift. Why wait on God's slow timing? Use your influence to feed yourself right now. In the next 40 days, you are going to be presented with a financial opportunity that looks like the ultimate answer to your prayers. It will be quick money. It will be easy money. It might look like a dream job or a business partnership that solves all your problems overnight. But there will be a hidden catch. It will require you to bend your integrity just a fraction of an inch. It will ask you to skip the process God has put you in. This is an Ishmael opportunity, something birthed in the flesh, to try and replace the Isaac of the promise. If you take it, you might get the bread, but you will contaminate the vessel. You must have the spiritual iron to look at that stone and say, "I will not eat if God did not provide the meal." The second form of confrontation is the ghost from the past. This is the relationship test. The enemy knows that isolation has been your greatest struggle as a cycle breaker. He knows you're lonely, so he will send someone to break that silence. But they aren't sent to comfort you, they are sent to siphon you. Suddenly, an ex-partner who hasn't crossed your mind in 2 years will text you out of the blue. They'll say they've changed. They'll say they miss the old you. Or a new person will walk into your life who feels like a soulmate instantly. The chemistry will be off the charts. But pay attention to the timing. Why now? Why right as you're about to cross the finish line? They are sent to reconnect you to the very dysfunction you just spent years bleeding to escape. If you open that door, you are inviting the old cycle back into your new season. Matthew 4:8 tells us the devil offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world for one moment of compromise. When that perfect person or that old flame pops up, do not be flattered. Be suspicious. Delete the number. Block the contact. Protect the peace you paid for with your tears. Sure. The third form of confrontation is the shortcut trap. This is the temptation to bypass the stairs and take the elevator. In Matthew 4:6, the enemy told Jesus to throw himself off the temple because the angels would catch him. He was saying, force God's hand, do something dramatic. Get the fame and the recognition right now without the suffering. You are going to feel a sudden, intense pressure to make it happen yourself. You'll feel the urge to announce your plans before they're ready, or to force a door open that God has clearly kept shut. But the shortcut is a landmine. God's way is the stairs, not the elevator. Why? Because the stairs build the muscles you need to stand once you reach the top. If you take the enemy's elevator, you'll go up fast. But the cable will snap because your character hasn't been built to handle the height. So, how do you dismantle these three forms of attack? You implement the pause. Protocol. Whenever an opportunity comes in the next 40 days that feels rushed, that triggers your fear of missing out, or that demands an answer right now, you stop. You visualize a gate in your mind. You stand at that gate and you ask one question. Does this align with the uncorrupted vessel I have fought so hard to build? If the money requires a crack in your honesty, the answer is no. If the person brings chaos into your sanctuary, the answer is no. If the shortcut bypasses the Holy Spirit's timing, the answer is no. Saying no to the good things is the only way you have the space to say yes to the God things. But listen, those first three attacks are external. They are the loud ones. The enemy knows you're becoming a master of discernment, so if he can't trip you up with money or relationships, he's going to switch his tactics. He's going to stop attacking you from the outside and start attacking you from the inside. The fourth and fifth forms of confrontation are the silent killers. They happen in the middle of the night, in the quiet of your own mind. They are the reason why even the most powerful, chosen ones often collapse right at the threshold of their breakthrough. And we are going to expose them right now, because once you name them, they lose their grip on your throat. Are you ready to go into the deep waters of your own mind? Because that's where the final battle for your territory is won. We are entering the deep waters now. The external storms were just the diversion. The real battle for your territory is fought in the 6 inches between your ears. If the enemy cannot buy you with gold or break you with a ghost from your past, he will try to dissolve you from the inside out. He is switching from the frontal assault to psychological warfare. These next two forms of confrontation are the reason why so many champions retire just before the trophy ceremony, and I need you to recognize them before they take root in your soul. The fourth form of confrontation is the spirit of comparison. The enemy knows that nothing kills a miracle faster than looking at someone else's plate. In these final 40 days of your waiting, your social media feed is going to be weaponized against you. You are going to see people who started their journey years after you finishing their race before you. You are going to see people with half your integrity and none of your work ethic getting the very thing you have been fasting for. You'll see the engagement ring on the finger of someone who mocks marriage. You'll see the keys to a new house in the hand of someone who is fundamentally dishonest. You'll see the business launch of someone who stole your ideas. And in that moment, a fiery dart is going to hit your shield. A voice will whisper, Lord, I have been faithful. I have kept my vessel clean. I have bled for this. Why them and not me is holiness a scam? Listen to me. Comparison is a demonic distraction tactic. In Ephesians 6:16, we are told to take up the shield of faith to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Comparison is not just a bad habit, it is a fiery dart designed to create inflammation in your spirit. If you look sideways, you slow down. Runners in the Olympic 100-meter dash never look at the lanes to their left or right. Why? Because the moment you turn your head to see where the other guy is, you lose your aerodynamic focus and you trip. Your race is custom made, your delay was custom made, and your reward, it is so specifically tailored to your DNA that nobody else could even fit into it. If you start comparing your chapter 10 to someone else's chapter 20, you are going to abort your own miracle. Stop looking at their fast success. Remember what we talked about. They are building shacks that will blow away in the first wind. You are building a fortress. Stay in your lane. Focus on your finish line. The fifth form of confrontation is the whisper of doubt. This is the oldest trick in the dark book. It is exactly what the serpent used in the Garden of Eden. Did God really say right before the manifestation, right before the cloud the size of a man's hand appears on your horizon, the enemy will try to make you question your original instruction? You are going to wake up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat, and a voice, it won't sound like a demon. It will sound like your own logic will say, "You made it all up. You aren't a chosen one. You're just a person who's been through a lot of trauma, and you're hallucinating a destiny to cope with the pain. God never spoke to you. You've wasted your life waiting for a ghost." This is a calculated attempt to make you abort the promise while it's in the birth canal. It is psychological terrorism. When this happens, you cannot argue with the voice using your feelings. You must answer with the word. Put on the whole armor of God so you can stand against the wiles of the devil. The word wiles in Greek is methodia, where we get the word method. The enemy has a method for your destruction, and his primary method is to make you doubt your identity so you surrender your authority. You fight doubt by going back to the last thing God told you in the light and standing there until the sun comes up. The sixth form of confrontation is aggressive isolation. This is fundamentally different from the hiding God did to you. God hides you to heal you. The enemy isolates you to kill you. In this phase, you are going to feel an intense, jagged wave of loneliness. It will feel like every bridge you've ever built has been burned. Your phone will stop ringing. Your mentors will seem too busy for you. Your friends will suddenly have other plans. You will feel like Elijah under the broom tree, crying out, "Lord, I am the only one left. Everyone has abandoned the covenant." The enemy wants you to feel unloved and forgotten so that you will run back to toxic comforts just to feel a human touch. He wants you to believe that your holiness has made you unlovable. Do not believe it. You are not being rejected, you are being set apart. The silence of humans is often the prerequisite for the thunderous voice of God. When the world goes quiet, it's because the master of the universe is about to step onto the stage of your life, and he doesn't want any background noise. The seventh form of confrontation is the most dangerous one of all premature pride. This happens when you get a sip of the breakthrough. Maybe a small check comes in the mail, or a door cracks open just an inch. You feel the relief, and you think, I've made it. I can relax now. You take off your armor. You stop your morning prayer. You start celebrating before the war is actually over. This is the Samson trap. Samson thought he could handle the Philistines without keeping his covenant. He got arrogant. He fell asleep on the wrong lap. And he woke up without his eyes. Ephesians 6:13 says, "And having done all, to stand." It does not say, "Having done all, to brag." It doesn't say, "Having done all, to go on vacation." You keep your armor on. You keep your knees hit to the floor. And you keep your vessel clean until the full weight of the glory is settled in your house. I need you to understand that you are standing on the precipice of a reversal that will shock your entire lineage. The enemy is throwing everything the kitchen sink, the past, the doubt, the pride, because he knows he has lost the legal battle for your soul. You have the shield. You have the playbook. Now, you need to know what the prize actually is. Says, you think you're fighting for a car, a house, or a bank account. You are wrong. Those are just the extras. The reward God has prepared for the uncorrupted vessel is something far more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. It is something the world cannot give, and the devil cannot take away. Are you ready to see the real treasure? Because once you understand the magnitude of the authority you've earned, you will never cry over a closed door again. The reward is being released, and it's going to change the atmosphere of every room you walk into for the rest of your life. You have successfully identified the traps. You have dismantled the 7 forms of confrontation, and you have stood your ground in the psychological trenches. But now, we must address the most important question of all. What exactly are you fighting for? You think you are fighting for a bigger paycheck. You think you are fighting for a house with a white picket fence, or a relationship that finally works. You think you are fighting for the restoration of your reputation. You are wrong. Those are just the peripheral benefits. Those are the side effects of a much larger spiritual reality. The reward God has prepared for the uncorrupted vessel is not just a pile of cash or a life of comfort. Those are the rewards of the world. And frankly, they are cheap. Any criminal can get rich. Any manipulator can find a partner. But the reward for a cycle breaker, the reward for someone who has straightened the twisted, generational wire of their bloodline is something the Bible calls dominion authority. Listen to me, chosen one. God is not interested in just making you wealthy. He is interested in making you a ruler. He is interested in giving you the spiritual jurisdiction to rebuild the ancient ruins of your family tree and your entire community. Money is just paper. Authority is the power to shift the very atmosphere of a room. Authority is the power to walk into a situation that is chaotic, broken, and dark, and without saying a single word, cause the demons to flee and the peace of God to settle. This is the new oil that has been stored up for you. Authority is the ability to command resources to come to you rather than you spending your entire life chasing them. It is the shift from being a seeker to being a commander. This brings us to a verse you have heard 1,000 times, but you have likely missed the fine print. Malachi 3:10 says, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, and prove me now herewith, if I will not open you the windows of heaven, and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it." We always focus on the opening of the windows, We get excited about the pouring out, but we completely ignore the last part, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. That is not just a promise, it is a serious warning. God is saying, I am about to pour out something so massive, so heavy, so structurally significant that if you do not have the internal capacity to handle it, it will not bless you. It will crush you. Imagine standing under a massive, roaring waterfall with nothing but a flimsy paper cup. The water is pure. It is abundant, and it is exactly what you need. But because your capacity is small and your structure is weak, the sheer force of the blessing destroys the cup and washes you away. This explains every single day of your delay. This explains every month of silence. This explains the seasons of crushing loneliness. God was not withholding the waterfall. He was taking the paper cup out of your hand and forging you into a reinforced steel reservoir. He was expanding your internal volume. He was making you wide enough to hold the weight of a nation and strong enough to withstand the pressure of a global assignment. You thought you were waiting on God, but the reality is that God was waiting on your stewardship. He was waiting for you to become a vessel that wouldn't shatter when the room enough to receive it blessing finally arrived. We see this principle perfectly illustrated in the parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25. The master gave 5 talents to one, 2 to another, and 1 to the last. But verse 15 adds a detail that is often overlooked. He gave to every man according to his several ability. According to his ability. The master did not distribute the wealth based on who prayed the loudest. He didn't give based on who needed it the most. He gave based on what they could manage without losing their minds or their integrity. If God had answered your prayer for millions of dollars 5 years ago, be brutally honest with yourself. Would you have used it to break the generational curse of poverty for your entire lineage? Or would you have used it to feed your own ego? Would you have built a legacy that outlasts your name? Or would you have bought expensive toys just to impress people on social media who don't even like you? The delay was your protection. God loved you too much to give you a weapon that you didn't know how to aim. He loved you too much to give you a platform that would have fueled your insecurity and eventually led to your public collapse. But now, because you passed the incorruptibility test, because you looked the devil's quick money in the eye and said no, and because you refused to use your power for revenge, your capacity has fundamentally shifted. You are no longer a paper cup. You are a vessel of honor, forged in the kiln of the wilderness and reinforced by the fire of the Holy Spirit. And because the vessel is now ready, the transfer of authority is no longer a maybe, it is imminent. But I have a final, critical instruction that you must implement immediately if you want to keep this reward. The enemy cannot stop the blessing from falling, but he will try to make you mismanage it so you lose it once it arrives. You need to install a high-level security system for this new level of authority. I call this the purity protocol. In Luke 12:48, Jesus says, "For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required." So this is the law of proportionality. The more authority you carry, the stricter the rules become. You can no longer live like a casual Sunday only Christian. You are now a kingdom steward. You are a general in the army of the Lord, and a general does not have the luxury of behaving like a private. I want you to visualize a spiritual clipboard in your mind right now, Imagine you are the chief executive officer of your own soul. Every morning, before you look at a single notification on your phone, before you let the noise of the world invade your peace, you must mentally check the 3 boxes on this clipboard. This is your daily audit to ensure your vessel remains clean for the oil. Box number 1. Check the motive. Ask yourself, the thing I am chasing today, the meeting I am going to, the deal I am trying to close, am I doing it to look good or to do good? Am I building my own kingdom to satisfy my pride, or am I building His kingdom to satisfy His purpose? If the motive is pride, the flow of the oil will stop instantly. You must keep the motive pure. Spirituous. Box number 2. Check the leak. Ask yourself, am I harboring any secret offense or tiny fracture of bitterness today? Remember, the oil of dominion is the most expensive substance in the universe. You cannot afford to let it leak out through a crack of unforgiveness towards someone who isn't even thinking about you. If there is a leak, seal it with the caulk of forgiveness immediately. Box number 3. Check the gate. Ask yourself, who am I allowing to speak into my ears today? Your ears are the gates to your spirit. If you listen to gossip, you are pouring sewage into your vessel. If you listen to doubt and secular fear, you are contaminating the anointing. You must become a ruthless gatekeeper of your own soul. If you can check these 3 boxes every morning, you create a safe, stable environment for the acceleration that is about to hit your life. And make no mistake, chosen one, it is coming. You have been moving at 1 mile per hour for 10 years, but the spiritual laws of physics are about to change in your favor. The oil is ready. The vessel is purified. The stewardship plan is in place. God is about to press the accelerator, and the speed at which things are going to happen will make your head spin. Get ready to move from the slow lane of Chronos into the high-speed lane of divine acceleration. You need to understand that when God decides to pay you back for the years of silence, He does not pay in small, monthly installments. He pays in lump sums. We call this divine acceleration. It is the spiritual law that allows the Creator of time to compress 10 years of blessings, 10 years of growth, and 10 years of restoration into a single 24-hour window. You have been moving at a snail's pace for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to win. You've gotten used to the struggle, used to the almost, and used to the not yet. But the spiritual laws of physics are shifting in your favor right now. When a vessel is proven, when the clay has been fired and the integrity has been tested and found solid, God removes the speed limit. The oil has been prepared, the vessel has been purified, and the stewardship plan is in place. Now, the Master is about to press the accelerator, and the speed at which things are going to happen in your life will be so fast, it will make your head spin. You aren't just moving to the next level, you are being catapulted there. You need to see the evidence of this acceleration before we seal it. You need to understand that God hasn't been late for the last decade. He has been storing up the momentum. Imagine a massive dam holding back an ocean of water. For years, you've only seen a few trickles coming through the cracks. You've been frustrated, thinking the water would never come, but what you didn't see was the pressure building up behind the wall when God finally opens the floodgates. The water doesn't just trickle faster, it explodes. It covers the distance in seconds that should have taken years. I want to tell you about a woman named Sarah to prove to you that this is not just a poetic theory, it is a kingdom reality. Sarah was a chosen one, just like you. She had been working on a vision, a ministry project, for 12 long, grueling years. 12 years of doors being slammed in her face. 12 years of funding falling through at the very last second. 12 years of her own family telling her she was crazy and that she should just give up and get a real job. She had passed every test. She passed the incorruptibility test when a shady investor offered her $1 million to water down her message, and she told him no. She passed the stewardship test by managing her tiny, volunteer team with excellence and love. Even when she couldn't afford to buy them lunch, she stayed pure in the fire. One random Tuesday morning, Sarah was sitting at her kitchen table, staring at a bank account that had exactly $40 in it. She was finally at her breaking point. She put her head in her hands and whispered, "Lord, I can't do this anymore. I think I've wasted my life." She didn't know that while she was whispering her defeat, heaven was signing her victory. She didn't know that her vessel was finally perfectly cured. At 10 a.m. that morning, an email popped up from a global donor she had never met, someone who had been watching her from a distance for 3 years. They didn't just want to help. They wanted to fund her entire vision. By 2 p.m., the wire transfer hit her account, and the $40 became a multi-million-dollar reality. By 5 p.m., a building owner called her out of the blue and offered her a premier office space for free because he felt led by God to support her. In 8 hours, God accomplished what Sarah had been trying to do for 12 years. She sat at that same kitchen table that evening, trembling with a holy fear. She looked at her hands. They were the same hands that were empty that morning, but now they were overflowing with the resources of the kingdom. She realized that God wasn't being slow. He was being strategic. He was storing up the momentum for one massive, life-altering release. This is exactly what Joel 2:25 means when God says, "I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten." Notice, he doesn't just say he will restore the crops or the money. He says he will restore the years. He buys back the time you lost in the wilderness. He makes your chapter 11 so explosive that it makes up for the silence of chapters 1 through 10. This brings us to the prophetic coordinate where you are standing right now. You are leaving the season of the plowman and entering the season of Amos. Listen to the power of Amos 9:13. "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed." Do you understand the spiritual physics of that verse in the natural world? There is a long, agonizing gap between plowing and reaping. You plow the hard ground in the spring. You plant the seed. You wait all summer through the heat and the bugs. And finally, you harvest in the fall. It is a slow, linear process. But God is declaring a season for the uncorrupted vessel where the cycle is so accelerated that the guy who is just starting to harvest is bumping into the guy who is still trying to plant the next crop. The blessing is coming out of the ground faster than you can put the seed in. This is the Kairos moment. The Greeks had 2 words for time. Chronos is clock time, tick-tock, day by day, waiting in line, getting older, moving slow. You've been living in Chronos for a long time, but Kairos is God's time. It is a vertical intersection where heaven invades earth in Kairos. One day is as 1,000 years. You are about to experience a Kairos week. The contracts that usually take 6 months of red tape and legal battles will be signed in a single afternoon. The healing in your body or your mind that usually takes years of therapy and medication will happen in one moment of genuine worship. The restoration of your family, the brother who hasn't spoken to you in a decade, or the child who is lost will happen over one divine dinner. Why? Because the uncorrupted vessel has a magnetic pull on the timeline of heaven. Your integrity has created a vacuum that the glory of God is rushing to fill. The enemy tried to use time to wear you out, but God is using time to pay you back with interest. So I need you to get ready. I don't mean get ready in a casual, emotional way. I mean get ready like a soldier who hears the air raid siren and knows the mission has begun. We are about to enter the activation ceremony. This is not just a prayer. This is a legal transaction in the spirit realm. We are going to seal your vessel. Announce to the enemy that his lease on your life has expired and command the Amos 9:13 acceleration to begin in your house. Shift your posture right now. If you are lying down, sit up. If you are driving, grip that wheel with the authority of a conqueror. If you are sitting, straighten your spine and lift your chin. In your mind, I want you to see your inner man rising up from the dust of defeat. Shake off the spirit of heaviness. Shake off the victim identity that you've worn like a shroud. Visualize the armor of God snapping onto your body with a metallic ring, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. You are not a beggar hoping for a crumb. You are a general of the Most High waiting for a final dispatch. Do not let your mind wander. Disconnect from the noise of this world for these final minutes. All the pain, all the waiting, and every single tear of the last season have led you to this specific coordinate in time and space. The paperwork is on the desk of heaven. The pen is in your hand. The preparations are finished. The gates of the storehouse are groaning open. Do not turn away. Do not look back. We are crossing the threshold now. This is the moment where the spiritual transaction takes place. This is not a rehearsal. This is the reality you have been bleeding for. I want you to visualize your spirit stepping into the throne room of the Almighty. The atmosphere here is not like the world. It is heavy, thick with a glory that makes the air feel like gold. The noise of your critics, the screams of your bills, and the whispers of your past have faded into absolute silence. It is just you and the King of Kings. In your mind, I want you to see yourself kneeling, not in the posture of a defeated servant, but in the sacred posture of a knight being knighted by a monarch. Place your hand over your heart right now and lock into my voice. I'm going to speak the decrees of heaven, and your spirit is going to say, Amen to every word. Father, in the mighty name of Yeshua, we stand before the court of heaven today. We do not come as beggars pleading for a crumb. We come as the uncorrupted vessels who have survived the furnace of affliction. We present the scars on our hearts as evidence of our endurance. We present the king's meat we refused as proof of our integrity. Lord, you have seen their tears in the secret place where no one else was watching. You have seen them choose the vegetable diet of righteousness when the world offered them the buffet of compromise. You saw them hold their tongue when they had the ammunition to destroy their enemies. And today we demand a verdict. I decree and declare over this chosen one that the season of testing is officially closed. I seal the results of your incorruptibility exam as passed with honors. I speak to the spiritual DNA of your bloodline right now. By the power of the Holy Spirit, I reach back into your history and I sever the cord of the Avon. I break the back of the spirit of poverty. I shatter the cycle of divorce. I dismantle the stronghold of addiction and the almost but not quite spirit that has haunted your name for a century. So, I declare that you are the cycle breaker. The bent wire of your family tree is being straightened by the hand of God right now. The iniquity of the fathers stops at your doorstep. It will not touch your children. It will not touch your future, and it will not follow you into this new season. I invoke the authority of Isaiah 22:22 over your life. The key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open. I take that key of authority and I place it on your shoulder. I command the doors that have been rusted shut for a decade to burst open under the pressure of this glory. I command the finances that have been held hostage in the second heaven to be released to the uncorrupted vessel immediately. I command the resources, the connections, and the global influence to find your current address. Now, we set the perimeter. I bind the 7 forms of confrontation in your life. I rebuke the spirit of comparison. It has no place in your lane. I silence the whisper of doubt. It is a liar and a thief. I expose every financial counterfeit and every ghost from the past trying to steal your peace. I declare that your spiritual discernment is being sharpened to a razor's edge. You will smell the trap miles away. You will see the enemy's strategy before it even unfolds. You are covered by the blood and shielded by the truth. I seal the purity protocol over your mind. You will steward this new level of authority with fear and trembling. You will not leak. You will not crack. You will not compromise. And now I activate the acceleration. I speak Amos 9:13 over your calendar for the next 40 days. I declare that your plowman is overtaking your reaper. I declare that you are going to see the work of 40 years accomplished in the next 40 days. The phone calls you have been waiting for are being dialed right now. The contracts you thought were dead are being drafted with better terms right now. The people who rejected you and counted you out are about to see the favor of God upon you and be absolutely astounded. Deuteronomy 28:8 says, "The Lord shall command the blessing upon you in your storehouses." I command that blessing to fall. I command your storehouse to overflow. I command the drought to end and the flood of favor to begin. Chosen one, do you receive this commission? Are you ready to stop acting like a victim and start walking like a ruler? Are you ready to handle the weight of this glory without bowing to your ego? If you are ready, I want you to open your mouth right where you are in your car, in your room, in your office, and say, yes. Say it again with the authority of someone who knows who they are. Yes. Heaven has heard your yes. The angels have recorded your yes. The kingdom of darkness has trembled at your yes. Job 22:28 says, "Thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee." It is decreed. It is established. The test is over. The reward is released. You are officially dismissed from the wilderness. Walk out of that desert and into your destiny. The light is shining on your ways, and the path ahead of you is paved with the promises of God. You have been proven. You have been purified. And now you are being promoted. But don't go yet. We have one final step to seal this entire journey so that not a single drop of this oil is lost. We are moving into the final 800-word conclusion to draw out the ultimate lesson and prepare you for the first day of your new life. You have stood your ground. You have faced the fire, and you didn't smell like smoke. But as you step out of the wilderness and into the bright light of your promised land, there is one final sovereign lesson you must carry in the very center of your soul. The ultimate meaning of this entire journey was never about the reward itself. It was about who you became while you were waiting for it. God didn't just give you a miracle. He turned you into a miracle. Turko. He took a person who was broken by generational cycles and forged a weapon of mass restoration. The lesson is this: your integrity is your currency in the kingdom of heaven. Money can be stolen. Fame can fade. People can walk, but an uncorrupted vessel is a permanent threat to the kingdom of darkness. You have learned that the silence of God is not absence, but the highest form of trust. He stayed silent because he knew you wouldn't quit. He stayed silent because he knew your character was solid enough to handle the delay. You have graduated from being a seeker of blessings to being a steward of glories. As you walk into these next 40 days of divine acceleration, remember that you are a pioneer. You are the one who straightened the wire. You are the one who broke the chain. When you see the resources starting to flow, when you see the doors swinging open, do not forget the lessons of the desert. Keep your heart soft. Keep your spirit humble. And keep your eyes fixed on the rider of the horse. You are the repairer of the breach, and the foundation you have laid in the dark will now support the greatness of your future. The test is over. The promotion is official. You are no longer a victim of your past. You are the architect of a new legacy. Go forth and rule in the midst of your enemies. For the Lord your God is with you, and his favor is your shield forever. If this message resonated with your spirit and you feel the shift happening in your life right now, I want to invite you to join this community of cycle breakers. Your engagement is not just a metric. It is a declaration of your faith and a way to encourage others who are still in the kiln. If you believe you have passed the test and you are ready to receive your reward, comment 999 below to seal this word in your spirit. If you feel there are areas I can improve to make these messages even more impactful for your journey, please press 0 in the comments. I value your honesty and want to grow with you. Or simply leave a comment sharing your own testimony or perspective. We read them all, and they fuel our mission to reach every chosen one on this planet.